Have you ever felt like your brain is literally a motor that just won't shut off? You know, like an engine just constantly revving in the background, analyzing, questioning, and replaying every single little detail of your life? Well, if you live with a restless mind, you know exactly how exhausting it can be. Welcome to our explainer on the psychology of chronic overthinkers. Today, we're going to look deeply at the fascinating science behind the mind that never, ever stops.
Okay, let's dive into this with a quote from Mark Twain that perfectly captures this feeling. He said, "I have so many problems that if a new one comes along today, it will be at least 2 weeks before I can worry about it." It's funny, right? But it absolutely nails that massive backlog of worries that overthinkers just drag around on a daily basis. So, picture this scenario. It's 2:47 a.m. The room is perfectly dark, it's still, the rest of the house is sound asleep. But you are wide awake. You're lying there, staring at the ceiling, replaying a completely random conversation you had with a coworker like 3 days ago, thinking, wait, did I say the wrong thing? And somehow that one tiny offhand comment snowballs into a massive 45-minute crisis about whether you're even on the right career path at all. Now, if that scenario made you feel a little too seen, consider this staggering number: 73%. 73% of adults between the ages of 25 and 35 engage in chronic overthinking. You are not broken, and you are for sure not alone in this. This is literally one of the most commonly reported psychological struggles of our modern era.
Part 1. The mind that never stops. Let's define what overthinking actually is. And this brilliantly illustrates a really important distinction. See, a lot of overthinkers defend their habits by claiming, hey, I'm just being thorough. But there's a core difference. Problem solving has a definitive endpoint. You gather the facts, you weigh your options, and you make a decision. Overthinking, on the other hand, it cycles endlessly. It's basically a cognitive traffic jam that entirely lacks resolution, and ultimately, it just generates suffering under this false illusion of productivity. Psychologists have actually identified two primary faces of this behavior: rumination and worry. Rumination is backward-facing. It's rooted in shame and past regret, just obsessing over what you did wrong yesterday or 5 years ago. Worry, though, is forward-facing. It's all about catastrophizing and future fear. Together, they act like this exhausting pendulum, swinging back and forth, completely bypassing the present moment entirely. Part 2. Inside the overthinking brain. Let's look at the actual neuroscience. All right, so first up, we have the default mode network, or the DMN. This is the part of your brain that's running the show when you're just zoning out or daydreaming. In chronic overthinkers, the DMN is hyperactive. And not only that, but it has decreased connectivity to the prefrontal cortex, which is the part of the brain that's supposed to regulate your thoughts. Basically, your thinking about yourself engine is stuck in overdrive and somebody cut the brakes. And then there is the amygdala. Think of this little guy as your brain's threat detection alarm system. In overthinkers, this alarm is incredibly sensitive. It's constantly firing at perceived dangers, triggering a prolonged stress response. And the ironic part, when the amygdala is this fired up, it actually impairs your rational thinking, which makes it so much harder to logic your way out of the spiral. So the crucial point is that this neurological loop floods your entire system with cortisol, our primary stress hormone. And chronically high cortisol is bad news. It literally shrinks the hippocampus, impairs that prefrontal cortex we just talked about, disrupts your sleep architecture, suppresses your immune system, and drives full-body inflammation. So this isn't just in your head, it's causing genuine, measurable physiological wear and tear. Part 3. Where does it come from? Let's explore the origins and risk factors. So how do we get this way? Well, overthinking develops from a perfect storm. Genetics play a massive role. It's actually 30 to 60% heritable. But your environment matters just as much. Childhood environments that required hypervigilance just to survive often wire the nervous system for anxious attachment. Add in things like parents who constantly modeled worry, complex trauma, perfectionist personality traits, and then top it all off with our modern cocktail of social media and information overload, you've got the exact blueprint for lifelong rumination. Let's move to and see how this builds into Part 4, the hidden costs and strengths. Clinically speaking, overthinking is what we call transdiagnostic. That means it's a core feature across a whole bunch of different conditions. For instance, it has a bidirectional relationship with major depressive disorder. Depression causes rumination, and then rumination just deepens the depression. It destroys restorative sleep, and honestly, in relationships, it drives this constant need for reassurance that can really exhaust the people we love the most. But wait, It is not simply a defective machine. Yes, the costs are high: analysis paralysis, emotional exhaustion, and totally ignoring your gut intuition. But the exact same hyperactive brain brings immense strengths. People who overthink usually have exceptional emotional intelligence and deep empathy. They have incredible strategic thoroughness for risk awareness and a highly fertile ground for creative thinking. Your mind is incredibly powerful, it just needs a little direction.
Part 5. What actually works? The evidence-based clinical solutions.
First things first, we have to unlearn the bad advice. What doesn't work? Telling yourself to just stop thinking. Psychology actually calls this the ironic process theory. It's like, if I tell you not to think of a white bear, you're guaranteed to only think of a white bear, right? Thought suppression is literally fuel for anxiety. Likewise, forcing toxic positivity or just relying entirely on endless scrolling and distraction, that only puts a temporary bandage on a much deeper wound.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how modern therapies tackle this. They're highly effective because they target the root of the issue. Cognitive behavioral therapy challenges the actual accuracy of your fears. Metacognitive therapy, or MCT, targets your beliefs about thinking. Acceptance and commitment therapy uses cognitive diffusion to create distance from your thoughts, which totally diminishes their behavioral impact on you. And even something as simple as expressive writing gives those endless mental loops a physical endpoint.
Part 6. Reclaiming your mind. Daily lifestyle shifts you can start today.
Okay, so here is a highly effective, actionable technique: scheduled worry time. You actually designate a specific 20 to 30-minute window each day. Literally put it on your calendar. When worries pop up outside that time, you just notice them and you postpone them to your scheduled window. This creates structure. It interrupts that automatic rumination without handing you the completely impossible task of suppressing the thoughts entirely.
Next up is the shutdown ritual. Overthinkers usually lack boundaries between the different domains of their life. So, by actively reviewing your accomplishments, listing tomorrow's tasks, and making a literal physical declaration that work is done for the day, you actively train your brain to disengage. You're signaling to your nervous system, hey, it is safe to close the tabs in my mind right now.
Finally, you can't always outthink an overthinking brain. Sometimes you just have to engage the body. Somatic techniques like progressive muscle relaxation, really slow diaphragmatic breath work, cold exposure, or sensory grounding, these physically anchor your attention in the present moment. Doing this activates your parasympathetic nervous system, which effectively quiets the mental noise by calming the physical vessel.
Chronic overthinking is not a life sentence. It is simply the manifestation of a highly intelligent, deeply sensitive mind that is just trying to protect you. With some practice, a little structure, and a whole lot of self-compassion, you can absolutely change your relationship with your thoughts and reclaim your mental peace. Because ultimately, your mind is a profoundly powerful instrument. The only question is, who is holding it?